acabemos, platicamos un rato. Qué suerte que hablas español.
That's a good question. I don't think so. Pero no me cuesta yo mi bolso. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session on looking for cyber talent. My name is Öykü Işık. I'm a professor of digital strategy and cybersecurity at IMD Business School based in Switzerland. And it's my honor to be facilitating this session. Even in the plenary, the role of digital transformation, the role of artificial intelligence has been mentioned several times, right? And for also being here in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where digital transformation is a key contributor to the vision, I think having a session on cybersecurity and the role of and the importance of both private sector and public sector in bringing the necessary talent to this very important and growing field is very, very appreciated. I have an esteemed set of panelists here with me today, but before I introduce them, allow me to set the stage a little bit. The purpose of this session is really to highlight the shortage of cybersecurity professionals. It is estimated that we have about 4 million professionals missing when it comes to cybersecurity. It's of course globally, but we also see the impact of the shortage is different in different regions, especially comparing SMEs to large corporations and all. So the purpose of this session is to really discuss what can organizations do to improve the situation for themselves, but also what can we do to globally, to collectively, to develop sustainable solutions when it comes to bridging this gap. World Economic Forum has an initiative called the Bridging the Cyber Security Skills Gap that I'm very happy to be a part of. And this session contributes to that initiative. And also this initiative has launched its first output. We have strategic cybersecurity talent framework report published, which is already online and accessible to you when it comes to seeing what kind of best practices we are already seeing around the globe, what organizations are doing to bridge this gap. It seems that even the industrial leaders are not very optimistic about filling this gap very quickly, but we already are seeing best practices, great practices emerging around the globe. So the purpose of this session is to highlight some of these best practices as well. Because the moment we start talking about this issue, we realize the multidimensional aspect of this. When you talk about bridging the gap, we have to talk about growing the talent pool. What can we do to invite more young minds to come and follow cybersecurity? What can we do better to attract talent? How can we make sure human resources policies and the way they assess talent is in line with the professionals out there? How about the process of recruitment? How about the process of retaining the talent? You may have heard the cybersecurity professionals has one of the highest burnout rates globally. There's high stress, there's high pressure, there's sometimes lack of motivation. So what can we do to nurture, to retain the talent in our organizations? So many different dimensions to this, right? And in the next 45 minutes or so, we'll be addressing some of these challenges with a focus on discussing these good practices, best practices that are already being deployed around the world. And of course, we would like to spend as much time as possible in discussing this, but we will also make sure there's time for Q&A at the end of the session for this. With that being said, I'd like to introduce my panelists. We have Mr. Saad Al-Aboudi, CEO of Saudi Information Technology Company. We have Mr. Mauricio Benavides, the CEO of Metabase based in Mexico. We have Ms. Pastora Valero, Senior Vice President of International Government Affairs of Cisco based in Belgium. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Mr. Al-Aboudi, I would like to turn to you and ask you about the role of digital transformation when it comes to fulfilling the Vision 2030 in Saudi Arabia. And of course, site is an integral part of the digital transformation efforts here in Saudi Arabia. How do you approach the challenge that we just introduced? You are already collaborating with local government. You are collaborating with the Cybersecurity Authority of Saudi Arabia. What are some initiatives you can share when it comes to attracting and nurturing cybersecurity talent here?
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be part of this esteemed panel. Well, in Saudi, and due to the unique nature and structure of our vision, our North Star, the Saudi Vision 2030, we have made many and exceptional successes in all industries and domains across all levels. And the key highlights that were published a few days ago are only sample of many achievements that are already underway. So if you look at, as you mentioned, the digital transformation layer as part of our vision, today many business models, platforms, and services are already digital. And as a matter of fact, it became the default aspirations and mindset for any new service launched in Saudi to be digital first. So in short, our society today is digitally connected. And this is evident also when you look at the internet usage in Saudi. It reached 99% as reported by the CST Commission a few days ago. So that this continuously puts Saudi Arabia among the top nations in the world when it comes to the internet connectivity. Another example could be if you look at the giga projects in Saudi, the Line, Neom, Hexagon, Dir'iyya, Murabba, to name a few. Just imagine how much technology and innovation will be injected into those projects. I believe these futuristic projects, they go beyond the known definitions of smart cities today, and they present tremendous business opportunities for the pioneering and leading companies, not only in the tech space, but in all other sectors to target and be part of. So in Saudi also, we've been privileged by the recognition of the cybersecurity due to its important role in protecting our digital investment and our digital agenda. And this recognition led to a unique Saudi model, the Saudi cybersecurity model, with the NCA as its central authority responsible for this domain, and SITE as its strategic and technical arm in building the sector. SITE fully owned by the PIF to ensure that the national investment part of this model is growing sustainably and also operates on the concept of a profit center as opposed to a cost center on the government spend. So this model simply relies on the centralization of governance and decentralization of entity-level cyber operations. And the centralization of governance is an overarching umbrella of the national regulations and the cyber security operations, including the cyber assessment and response and the human capital development. So if you look at the Saudi model, you will see that the human capital development is an integral piece of the cybersecurity in the kingdom. And this model has been exceptionally successful from vision to strategy to execution, and many achievements and milestones came out of this model. Locally, the NCA established two important frameworks, and they're targeting the talent development. The first one is the cybersecurity workforce framework, which defines the job roles and competencies within the cyber domain. And the second framework is targeting the curriculum design, especially for the higher studies. So these two frameworks are already implemented. They're already in operations by many academic and training institutions in the kingdom, and also public and private entities. And globally, Saudi Arabia also has established the Global Cybersecurity Forum Institute. And this institute comes as a continuation of the GCF Forum launched in 2020. And this institute is an international nonprofit organization with the mission to contribute to international efforts in enhancing collaboration, info sharing, and talent development at a global level. And under the patronage of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, two main initiatives already launched along with the establishment of this institute. The first one is for empowering women in the cyberspace. And the goal of this is to take advantage of the available and skillful women workforce, and then retain and attract them to contribute to the demand gap in the cybersecurity. Because based on some of the studies, part of this initiative, which a study that screened more than 120 organizations globally, more than 57% of them answered that the question that they have unfilled cyber position. And if you look at the distribution between women and women, it's 25% to 75%. So clearly there is a tremendous opportunity for solving this gap. Another initiative is for protection, for the protection of children globally. And this is very important to protect our children from the noise happening in the internet today. And also strategically prepare them with the right mindset to be our future leaders and our future experts in this domain, so that they become the good guys, not the bad guys.
Thank you. Mr. Benavides, from Saudi Arabia to Mexico and Latin America, the Strategic Framework for Cybersecurity Talent report talks about a very interesting research that discusses how lack of cybersecurity-specific training opportunities, together with high employee attrition rates, may be affecting Latin America's ability to execute on strategic goals such as infrastructure modernization or also digital transformation. Can you share a little bit with us how MetaBaseQ addresses this, and what are some other challenges in the region, and especially you have an overview for SMEs as well. So can you share how this especially impacts the situation with SMEs and their access to cybersecurity talent?
Yes. First, thank you to the Kingdom for the invitation. The World Economic Forum, I think the initiative of building cyber talent globally is very important. As we go into every setting, cybersecurity and AI are becoming a key piece within the equation. And I think the threat is global. It doesn't matter where the region is or where people are. We just feel that there's a lack, as we started saying before, that over 4 million jobs available right now, and it's expected to grow much more in the coming years. It's going really fast with the AI piece into it, and Latin America has at least 10%, 12% of those ones. And I think one of the things that we're seeing is this is just now a habit. So from our perspective, we're going back to children starting in first grade, third grade, fifth grade, to put it in the kids' books and start thinking about cybersecurity as part of the equation, right? As we see the world through technology is advancing extremely fast. So we know what we know today, but we don't know what's going to happen 3 months from now, because technology is moving extremely fast. And I think that the challenge and the threat is globally. And for us participating in these type of events, it's interesting to have best practices. Now, we're talking, everybody has the same technologies, computers, phones, infrastructures. The manufacturers, the builders are very same, and the attackers don't care where you are. They're just looking always for the best place where they can attract that. So since we started this, cybersecurity talent has been a challenge, because large corporations have a tough time. Now imagine an SMB company. It's even much more complicated, right? Because when you start a business or you have a small business, you don't even think about cyber. You're thinking about making your numbers, about having a UAI experience, about those things. So something that it could potentially think that it's expensive. They just give it up. They leave it out there, but then they take control of the companies when you're an SMB. So if the large companies are having a tough time acquiring talent, the smaller ones are even more complicated ones. And one of the things that we did, we developed a platform to try to address that piece of the market, and just to get a better sense of what are the needs that people need on the talent base, so we can help and provide back to universities, school, colleges, global associations. The WEF now through the cybersecurity hub is starting to do a lot of things. And regulation becomes another important thing, right? Because not every country is regulated. Every different region has different regulations. As an example, Latin America is behind on those things. So you add the talent piece with no regulation, with attackers coming in everywhere. And yes, large corporations could have something going on here, but as they operate globally, their deployments or methods are wrongly done or executed in the other parts of the world. And coming back to SMBs, imagine that's not even part of the equation. No? And a lot of it is awareness. We always tell people that, and that's what we're trying to bring on the talent and education thing is, you don't necessarily need to spend millions of dollars. There's very simple things at the beginning to get you much more secure, like changing your passwords, not connecting to Wi-Fi's, never giving your stuff. But not even those things are in the education program or people thinking about. And I think that just starts creating that talent bridge that will help SMBs and other type of corporations. No, so I think it's exciting to be here. There's a lot of best practice that have to happen across the globe. Regionally, things and the attacks are a little bit different depending on your vulnerabilities. But overall, the scheme of things, everybody's trying to find the same things. So,
thank you for sharing. And Ms. Valero, Cisco has been an integral part of the cybersecurity ecosystem, right? Not with only the products, but you already have been offering training opportunities, not just on cybersecurity, but relevant topics as well, online for quite a while now. So what are some best practices you can share with us when it comes to especially how private companies can enable this training opportunities, improve this gap, and partner maybe with governments to build the next generation of cybersecurity professionals?
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you to the Kingdom for hosting this event. I'm very excited also that the WEF is publishing this cybersecurity talent framework and that we have been able to contribute, because it's not only about what are the threats that we have and the shortage of cyber skills, but it's also what are the concrete solutions, and that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about. Cisco has been training over 20 million learners in digital skills over the past 27 years, and this is really a key focus for us. But as we know, not one single actor can tackle the shortage alone, and this requires a whole ecosystem with governments, with academia. And one of the things that we are trying to do is not only to share our curriculum, but also to try to find alternative education paths. I mean, you mentioned, Mauricio, that 97% of the jobs that are needed are really not in big companies, are really in small and medium businesses. And while it's really important that we continue to foster STEM education, it's also important that we work with vocational institutions, with different organizations to provide skill set that allows some of these entry jobs and then have the experience on the job. So that's what we've been really focusing as well, is this multiplying the education paths. And one of the things that has also allowed us, and I think you made a reference to that, is to be more inclusive as well, to think about underrepresented communities, to think about how do we attract more women in the cyberspace, how do we attract refugees. We have even implemented our programs in prisons. And we have many initiatives ongoing right now. I mean, just come to mind because I was in Germany, the Ready School, training refugees on cyber. And then you can have these students in our partner ecosystem. So we have provided also a path to jobs. And the other thing I would say is that it's very important as well that we multiply. So we talk about what we are doing. And that's why I think governments have a very important convening role. And based in Brussels, the European Commission created a cybersecurity academy a year ago. I invited all companies to come and pledge. So we have pledged 250 new learners in cybersecurity in the EU over the next 2 years. And this is something that I think it's important because we have to hold ourselves accountable as well. We have to track progress, and we have to do this together. And then the other thing, I think, in terms of governance, we partner with governments, we're partnering with the Kingdom of Saudi to help contribute to their vision. In Saudi, we talk about Vision 2030, and one of that key enablers of the whole digitization is obviously education. So with that, we try to then help bridge those two worlds, the formal education world and the industry world, to try to tackle this shortage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Valero. And it's my pleasure to also welcome our fourth panelist, Ms. Doris Anite, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment of Nigeria. Welcome, Ms. Anite. Nigeria is one of Africa's top technology startup ecosystems, right? I was reading about how there are over 100 startups with focuses on fintech, e-commerce, e-health, and of course, cybersecurity is an integral part of this. Yet research shows us that Nigeria has around 8,000 cybersecurity professionals today. So what are some measures that the government is taking to address this shortage? And how can this cybersecurity professionals enable the growth of this ecosystem and its success?
Thank you very much and for having me on this panel and for the opportunity. I had other engagements, so apologies for joining a bit late. And yeah, you're right. I mean, we have 7 unicorns now in fintech alone from Nigeria, and we're seeing that sector really grow. The Nigerian population is at least 70% below 25 years, and they're very tech-savvy, very creative, and very energetic. And we've seen that translate in the creative sector, in IT, in music, in fashion, in movies. So we're seeing that growth happen with the young population. And you're right, I mean, we also noticed that we had a small amount of people in cybersecurity, so we've been deliberately training people. So we launched the training for AI for 3 million people, which we already started in partnership with different global organizations. And we just recently also signed an MOU with Lab 4 for cybersecurity to train additional 50,000. So in all, we think that in the next 2-3 years, we should train at least 5 million people in both AI and cybersecurity. And our target is to also contribute to global outsourcing, because we think we have the capacity, and we've already started partnering with these institutions to support, to provide cybersecurity jobs and other kind of tech support to global companies that need this tech talent. So, and for us, I think Nigeria is the best place to actually have this, because we are also rapidly investing in our digital infrastructure to ensure that there's connectivity across the country, and also bringing the ecosystem into hubs, into clusters that helps to also drop the cost of doing businesses, or helping them to, connect to the digital infrastructure, to connect to the web, to connect to the services that are available. So we're actively promoting that, and this is the first time we're actually having a ministry for digital economy, focusing squarely on helping to increase the digitalization and the digital penetration for the country. We've seen a huge penetration with telecommunications, so I think we're about 90%. But now on the tech side, what we had before was we didn't have the digital infrastructure, we didn't have enough finances to support. But the accelerators that we have and the incubators have done a great amount of job. And with this little amount of investment that we've seen unicorns already come out of the country. So now we are now targeting and trying to market that ecosystem as a very viable investment option for the global community. And then we think we can actually create more unicorns in the country just through the creative sector, whether it's tech, whether it's cybersecurity, AI, music, or fashion. And Nigeria is ready because the people, the citizens, the young people themselves are self-motivated. They don't really need so much hand-holding. I'm sure you've trained a lot of Nigerians and you've seen the readiness for uptake, for knowledge. And so we've created a platform for more investment to happen. And this is what we're doing in Nigeria. So thank you very much.
Thank you. You highlighted the role of artificial intelligence, so I would like to also ask this to everyone on the panel, because now, especially generative AI has taken the world by storm, right? And everybody talks about both how it can be positioned as a friend or as a foe in cybersecurity. How can we adapt all these initiatives you are highlighting to catch up with the AI developments that is so fast? How do we position AI and use it as an opportunity to foster maybe more interest into cybersecurity, but also to equip the new generation of cybersecurity professionals with the AI capabilities and knowledge as well?
Well, I think AI can be considered as a turning point for the cybersecurity space from protector's side and also from an attack perspective. Now, in the old days, attacks used to be using a certain malware that will be mutated and used multiple times by different parties, different attacking profiles from different jurisdictions, and then usually their attacking scenario will always target certain entities or multiple entities in batches. And also they will engineer their dwell time as well as the lateral movement to cause damage. But I think with AI, complete scenarios is totally different, which heavily impacts the talent development. So imagine the scenario of having multiple attacks running simultaneously, deploying generative AI agents that are operating autonomously, targeting multiple entities, multiple sectors, maybe also cross-border targets at the same time. And that will also lead to having a dwell time and lateral movement that are much faster than what you have seen before. So there is a huge shift when it comes to the APTs and targeted attacks. So in comparison, in the past, I think the impact of AI in particular led to having attacks where more human-centric than machine. In the future and post-generative AI, I think attacks might be more machine-centric than human, with the humans as the mastermind behind them. And I believe the machines with the humans as the mastermind behind them will be more impactful. So I think this dilemma sets a different trajectory and challenge for the talent development in cyberspace. Now it's more robust, more advanced, and the mutations for these generative AI agents will be mutating at net speed and according to the targeted attack surface as opposed in the past.
Thank you. And in Metabase Q, you are already using AI in your solution as well, I think.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, I think AI has been here for some time. Now it just exploded, and people are talking about it. But a lot of the technologies were initially thinking about AI a little bit. But one of the things that, I mean, as you're saying in the panel right now is the bad guys have access to AI as well as the good guys, right? They have unlimited budgets. We have limited budgets. So from that perspective, it's a race and a challenge. But I think AI is becoming very interesting because the way we use it is, on education. So we can have people training, and I was going to mention this, 8% of the people who work with us did not go to school. We find a bunch of them in communities. We believe that long term we can help build middle classes, as we're talking about in places like Nairobi, other places in Mexico and Brazil, in Chile, in other type of countries, because people that used to have to go as immigrants in different places, now they can have a pretty good job because of these things. No? So I think it becomes interesting, and inclusion becomes a huge thing, right? Because now woman, any type of different gender could actually look into it, and we actually live it. We have a bunch of people on the company. They're the most brilliant, and they're using AI to become more educated. Why? Because now through the platforms, if you organize it properly, you can have a education per person, improve on the different things that you actually need. So if you need to get better at certain things in companies, also people and things like that, you can have a specific item utilizing AI to get better at certain things. And if you don't pass like the courses or the small exams, they continue focusing with examples, just focus on that. And every time they're much more efficient. And lastly, one of the things that we're using it for is the response action, right? So on the monitoring aspect, before we took those weeks to identify where was that threat coming from? Any other country outside Latin America? Now, within seconds, we know 90% of what the issue was. We can quickly turn around with the customers, take actions immediately on it, and then have still a piece of the component of the people coming in. But before, it used to be long. So I think AI is going to be very complementary to everything that's going on. But as everything, you need to be able to capitalize it, understand it, and you also need to know that the attackers have the same access and unlimited resources for it. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, so if you think about AI, I mean, that's clearly going to make us more secure if deployed in the right way. And this is what we're trying to do, right? Embedding AI across all of our networking portfolio, understanding out of all the telemetry, out of all the data, what are the threat patterns, how can we automate and really focus on what's critical, and how can we segment when we're facing an attack. So it's really quite encouraging, but as you said, the bad guys will also leverage AI. So this is a race. And we've just launched a survey. I was just looking at a survey on AI readiness. So 84% of companies think that AI is going to have a very significant impact on their business. 97% say it's urgent to deploy AI-powered technologies. But in fact, only 14%, 1/4 organizations are fully ready to integrate AI, right? So this connects to the talent and the need to continue to focus on AI technology, cybersecurity. And one of the things that I'm really excited, we launched a couple of weeks ago AI ICT-enabled consortium with 9 corporations. This is in the context and inspired by the US-EU Trade and Technology Council. But this is a job, I think, that is going to be global. And the idea of this consortium is really to understand what is the impact that the AI is going to have on a specific ICT jobs. What is the impact AI is going to have on cybersecurity specialists? Because part of the functions that they are doing today is going to be automated. So what is the need that we have to reskill those cybersecurity specialists, data analysts, that are going to have part of their jobs automated by AI? And again, this is kind of the net. I think it's going to be positive, but it's really making the case also to focus on reskilling. And it's also that we are going to need also other types of skills as well. We've said this for a long time, but I think this is more relevant than ever. Skills like critical thinking, problem solving are going to be really very important as well, to be able to do these ICT jobs in the future when you have AI deployed across the board.
Thank you. Ms. Anita, do you have any other thing to add in terms of the connection between AI and cybersecurity?
Yeah, okay. No, I think everything they've said is apt. It makes it faster, and like you said, it's the good guys have access to it. The bad guys have access to it. Even before AI was introduced, it was the same thing. You have the good guys and the bad guys, and then you have the cybersecurity companies trying to play the security men. But I think that as we move towards AI, and given the pace, how quickly AI is going to revolutionize the world, it's very important that we keep in view that we also have to have strong regulation for AI as well. I don't think it's you have something as impactful, as disruptive as AI, and we leave you without checking it. I mean, when we all realized that climate change was going to have a huge impact, we came together and formed some organization, some consortium, and decided to tackle it. I think this is also the same way we should begin to regulate it from early onset, and have so the regulation also helps to determine how we all play and how much we really want to put into this. Because there's a lot of challenges with AI. I mean, it's a good thing. It will leapfrog development, technology. We'll probably get from ground zero to ground to the sky in less than 0.1 second. But like Valerio said, it's going to impact jobs. How quickly can we actually reskill or upskill to take advantage is a question. And from what I've heard, the algorithm is changing. I mean, the skill set that you need for AI gets obsolete very fast. Within 2 months, what you've learned is already obsolete. So how can we humans actually really keep up? And I listened to someone who said that the only thing that can monitor AI is AI. And so it actually begs the case that we will see a lot of our jobs becoming really obsolete and being taken over by AI. So we now need to begin to think about how to create jobs for those who will not be employed. And not everyone is going to have the opportunity to upskill and be a part of it. But on the other hand, it might actually create a huge other work opportunities that we haven't yet seen. So we're looking forward to that. I mean, it's a good thing. Yes, there's a little bit of apprehension because a lot of people, because of employment skill, because of skill set, skill level. And like I was saying, I mean, everything as you're training them, whatever training that I've received in 2 to 3 months becomes obsolete as soon as I receive the certificate, so I have to go back. And so how then do I begin to use my skill in what role and what in employment? We see the role of data analysts. I mean, a lot of people spend so much money and time to become data scientists, data analysts, and now those roles are going to be taken over by AI. So what is next for us? What is next for them? And so we now have to begin to think about how and what next. So that's my kind of contribution, and it's very important for us because Nigeria is a huge population. We want people to get employed. So we've, like we said, tried to segment between those who are AI tech savvy and those who are not, but still give everybody the opportunity to learn all the skills that they need or that they want or require for different kinds of jobs that will be available. As AI makes companies richer and more powerful, maybe they will build and construct more. So we need to have construction workers. We need to have day caregivers. We need to have jobs that AI will not fill. And so we have to also still focus on that, invest in those, and not just invest in AI. So I think we should continue to have a balanced approach in investing in talent, whether it's AI talent or just the manual or the natural talent that we all have. And it's very crucial for stability. In Nigeria, for example, we know that the insecurity there, and even regionally, is being felt because of unemployment. Now imagine if everybody becomes unemployed, what would happen? So these are the things that we need to put on the table, because if we're looking at regional and global security, it's very important to keep people busy. So, but again, we're still going to see what sort of job opportunities will be coming out of this new technology that we're seeing. And I repeat, it's important to also put regulation in the mix.
Thank you. Thank you. It's clear that AI is forcing us to think about the future future workforce in every direction, right? But especially in terms of cybersecurity, it sounds like we need to think a bit even meta and say what are the core capabilities and skill sets for cybersecurity professionals to have as human capital in this topic. Thank you, everyone. With that being said, I would like to turn to our audience and see if there are any questions that you'd like to ask to our panelists.
Thank you. So this is to the panel. There was a lot of discussion around focusing on developing the skill sets for the future generation for cybersecurity. We tend to think of those as tech skill sets, but if you look at the non-tech skill sets, what would you recommend? What would you be advised for the young generation to focus on?
So I'll start. I think on practice, what we're seeing in our company as we help large enterprise companies execute on this, some of our best talent are lawyers, are people that never thought that they were going to do cybersecurity, but that they had a passion when they were younger, either playing video games or hacking their neighbor, but somebody told them that they had to be a lawyer or they had to be an accountant or something like that. And also, one of the things that we're seeing is it's an industry that has multiple things. You don't have to be 100% a programmer. You monitor, you develop things, you communicate, you train, you do awareness. There's maturity levels within the organization. So there's a lot of things inside cybersecurity that I think sometimes we miss or we lose. People initially, when they're like, "Why I can't be a programmer," so they run away from it, and slowly they fall in love with those things. And why do I say that? Because I mentioned before, 8% of the people that work in our company never went to school. Around 20% never thought that they were going to do cybersecurity. 40% are women and other genders. And it's just fascinating to see, especially coming from other backgrounds. I used to do fintech, I used to do manufacturing, I worked at global companies, but I've been a passionate entrepreneur. So to me, when I look at these things, the future is very interesting for people who want to do this, and you don't have to spend too much time. This changes rapidly, but it's that passion that I believe you need to have, and it could be outside, no?
Yeah, no, totally. I think we need to demystify ICT jobs in general, right? And as a woman, it's always frustrating to see how few women, and actually in Saudi Arabia, we do have a higher percentage of women in our networking academy than, for example, in Europe. So I think the Kingdom is doing a good job with policies attracting women in the ICT sector. We absolutely need to demystify. And to your point, if you think about many of the jobs and this kind of parallel education path that doesn't require that you have 2 diplomas in engineering school, you can be an ICT professional with, training on basic security, IoT data, and then couple that with some of the soft skills, and I don't like to call them soft skills because they have become core skills about problem solving, about communication skills, about collaboration skills, really important, a team activity. It's not just about a geek behind its computer, right? And then also to be able to show the transformative power of what you are doing as a job, that you can capture the imagination. So I think the hands-on experience is also so important. I mean, one of the things we're doing in Nigeria is create those experience centers where students can come and see and get them excited and passionate about the technology.
If I may add?
Of course.
Well, I think on top of what my fellow panelists have already mentioned, I would say also the soft skills part is very important because working in a cybersecurity domain is different than other domains. The amount of pressure is different. The nature of the job is different. So I would say the first one is the connection of your workforce with the vision and mission before flooding them with the operations. I think that's very important. And the second thing is about the culture as well, the culture of collaboration. Today, one key word as part of this forum is the collaboration at the global level. And I believe collaboration also is important within the organization itself, because in cybersecurity, not so much you can do alone, even within the entity itself.
Thank you. May I add also to that, because I was reading about how burnout is highest among cybersecurity professionals, so maybe also the role of personal resilience, emotional resilience, and stress management for these professionals is also critical, because now you're all on a path in building the cybersecurity talent workforce, but that takes time. So also nurturing the already existing talent is a key part of this, I think, keeping the industry on the development path. So maybe we have time for one more quick question. I'm just going to look into our audience to see.
Thank you very much for taking my question. I've really liked the fact that you mentioned the cultural aspect and the burnout aspect. And I'm just wondering to what extent you think there's a risk of maybe the older generation being left behind as we go on this journey, because a lot of the focus is on how do you take the younger people through, how do we prepare for the next generation and make sure that we can overcome that 4 million people skills gap. But what do we do with those who are in the workforce already? How do we make sure that they have the right skills, knowledge, and capabilities to navigate what is a very, very complicated and fast-changing environment?
Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, one of the things, for example, we do in Cisco, we have programs for military veterans and try to reskill and skill. So I think it's also to focus your initiatives on those parts of the population that are either underrepresented or less privileged and need, a little more of the reskilling. So we do have, I think it's collective action, but we can't leave anyone behind. I think the president mentioned this, right? No one left behind. And it's important that we share those practices. I mean, the one that comes to mind that we are doing at Cisco is with veterans.
Yeah, we do a lot of webinars. Same for kids in terms of like violence and careful with your cybersecurity things and things like that. Same for elderly people, because you start seeing a huge trend of that they call them up to, they give me your user and password. And I think awareness becomes a pretty important thing. And that's for people maybe that are not working as much. And the people that are in a senior age working, I think that awareness, especially larger corporations, are taking care of, in a way, a little bit of it, because they're starting to do the aware campaigns. And I wouldn't say they're going to be very sophisticated on it, but at least be aware that that's the case. And in smaller ones, it's a complicated thing. And that's why the alliances between public and private sector plus universities is super important, because then you start going across all the different aspects on the people and the person within the countries, no?
Thank you. So thank you, everyone. This was a really interesting discussion. Some of the key highlights for me is to hear about how the threat is global, the technology is global, but we're still trying to find best practices and share globally how we can actually not just grow the talent pool that is out there, but also attract better talent in our organizations. It was also very interesting to see and hear the importance of public-private partnerships in bridging the formal education gap to the professional training gaps that you all highlighted, and how we do need special attention to diversifying the workforce and special attention to children whose numbers are growing every day when it comes to accessing online and digital platforms. So thank you very much for your contributions. And I'd like to bring the session to a close by highlighting the next steps of bridging the cyber skill gap initiative. As I mentioned, this session is a contribution to that, and the next steps in this initiative is to look into the needs of specific stakeholder groups, such as small and medium-sized enterprises or across the different geographies, and how these different stakeholders can actually use and apply and benefit from the framework. And as I mentioned earlier, you can actually have access to the report that is the first output of this initiative also on the website. With that being said, thank you for your great contributions, and thank you everyone for your attention and for your questions.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.